rencontrer trois jolies demoiselles.
Welcome to all.
Qui nous mène, c'est l'aviron qui nous mène en haut. C'est l'aviron qui nous mène, c'est l'aviron qui nous mène en haut. J'ai point choisi, mais j'ai pris la plus belle. J'ai point choisi.
I know I can't hear you talk. Let's begin. I always like to play something for the people that lived in the Michigami, the Great Water, 1,000 years ago. Well, this is a Native American flute. Scientists believe that the flute is the third oldest instrument on the planet, preceded by the rattle and the drum being the oldest, and every culture on Earth has a drum. The original flutes that archaeologists have found were made out of wing bones of birds because they were hollow. I guess some bird wings are, and I don't know about all of them, but someone actually decided, and no one knows who that was, put the holes in the bone and could actually get a sound out of that instrument. So this is a modern day Native American flute. I buy all of my flutes from a gentleman in Arizona, and I have a number of them. So in some ways, I don't know what you know from previous experience. I can say that most of my programs are geared towards children, but I do have an adult program, which I've presented at the Maritime Fest for years. Of course, it changes every year. I've been invited to perform there, started performing there in 1999. So my relationship with the Maritime Fest goes back quite a ways. In my program, I try to make it as interactive as possible. When my French ancestors came here, of course, you know, they didn't explore in the dark on their own. They had to have indigenous people act as their guides. Now, the story goes that my people are Huron. In English, that's Huron. In French, Huron means spiky-haired ruffian. Our proper name is Wendat, and when English-speaking people hear that, they call us Wyandot. So Wendat, Wyandot, and Huron are all the same. So when my French ancestors came here, they knew that they had to, that is, in the environment, know who your friends were, your friends of the forest, your enemies of the forest, and creatures that weren't friends or enemies, but it was best to take a wide berth around them. Let's start with a friend. This is a Native American legend. It is the legend of Animush and Ma'ingan. I don't know if any of you speak Anishinaabe-Moan, but I won't tell you the names of the animals until after the story. So again, this is an animal that is a friend. Many years ago, two animals were walking through the forest. It was cold and food was scarce. They both set their nose to the wind and sniffed. And Animush said, "Oh, I smell something good to eat coming from the human's cooking fire. I will go counsel with that human, and maybe he'll give me something to eat." Then Ma'ingan spoke. "If you go with the human, you and I will for a long time or forever be enemies." And Animush said, "But if we don't get something to eat, we will fall into the sleep that knows no waking. We must have something to eat. And Ma'ingen said, well, then you go with the human and I'll go into the forest with my own clan and start my own clan. And if ever we meet in the forest, we just might fight unto the end, to death. Well, Animush went into the camp of the human, and he was very weak. And he said, please, my brother, may I have food to eat? For I'm very hungry. And the human said, no, if I feed you now, I'll have to feed you forever. And then Animush thought and said, I will make a good trade. If you let me stay in your camp, I'll go with you on the hunt, for I'm a very good hunter. I use my nose, my eyes, and my ears. And on your command, I will rush into the forest and scare out the game so that you might have food for your cooking fire. Or if you want, why, you can go hunting on your own, and I'll stay back here and protect your women and the children and the old ones. For I can sense danger before it arrives. I use my eyes, my nose, and my ears, and I will rush out and meet that danger with my teeth bared for battle. But upon your return, I will rejoice. I'll be so happy I'll want to play. I'll play with the children. They can throw a stick and I'll go get it and bring it back, and we can do it all day long. And this will give you a chance to prepare the meat. And please, my brother, all I ask are scraps of food from your cooking fire. Please, may I stay? And human thought, yes, you may stay, as long as you keep your word. Come and sit by my fire, and let us get to know each other. Have something to eat. And from that moment on, human and Animush were best friends. Well, I guess we could use the chat function for this. If you think you know who Animush might be, type it in. I'll give you a few seconds. Animush is dog. Now, many people ask about Ma'ingen. Very good. Who is that? Mark and Nancy. Excellent. Yes. Ma'ingen is like dog, but bigger. And my people, we admire his family values and his hunting skills. And this is our sign for Ma'ingen. Do it with me. And now we turn to the side and we sing the song of Ma'ingen together. And who might Ma'ingen be? You can use your chat function if you wish. Let me grab my glasses. Dixie, to everyone, wolf, correct. That is who Ma'ingen is. All right, so there's our friend. Let's talk about an enemy. Well, Father Marquette wrote in his journal, which is a primary source document, I tell that to children when I visit schools, that he writes about this creature. In French, we say bébite. But in Anishinaabe-Moan, the word is, let's see here, I'm thinking of something else. Give me a second. Well, in French, bébite. Many years ago, there was a creature named Sugame. That's it, Sugame. You can try. Sugame. He was a creature as big as a human, had a spear out the top of his forehead, and from that spear, he took all the blood of every living creature. Well, the people got together and they said to the Great Spirit, save us from Sugame. Certainly, if he is allowed to live year-round, there will be no life left. And so it was. The Great Spirit sent Keeper of the Heavens, his greatest warrior, at first to counsel with Tsugame. And if that failed, well, then to fight. And so the council went on for many days. And finally, Keeper of the Heavens asked Tsugame, Tsugame, can you learn to live in peace with everyone? Tsugame just shook his head and said, for that's all Tsugame ever said. And a great battle ensued, and Keeper of the Heavens picked up Tsugame and threw his body on a rock, where it exploded into millions of droplets of blood. And from those droplets of blood came millions of tiny Tsugame, or Tsugameok, plural. And Keeper of the Heavens, he couldn't fight them all. And so he ran back to the Great Spirit and said, there is nothing that I can do. Tsugame and Tsugameok, all the Tsugame will forever live in Michigan. And so the Keeper of the Heavens and the Great Spirit made a decision. The Great Spirit, Gichimanitu, said, Tsugame, if I let you live year-round, there will be no life left. So you can come back to the Michigami only when the weather is warm and there is water on the ground. And sometimes during those warm months, as we lie in our bed, Tsugame or Tsugameok come and sing in our ears. And that is the legend of, use your chat function and let me know what creature I'm talking about. Let's see here who comes up. Oh, Jan Charter to everyone. Mosquito, correct. Tsugame or Tsugameok. In French, we say bibit, which is like a pest. Or we, sometimes I've seen people try to say in French mosquito, as we say it. Here is a creature that deserves our respect. And when we see him or her, we must take a wide berth around her. We'll use her for today. Long ago, there was a Wendigo, which is a monster. And this Wendigo was very hungry. And it came looking for lunch. As it was thundering through the forest, the great creatures like Makwa the bear, Ma'ingan the wolf, Wingizi the eagle, they all took cover, except little Shikog. The Wendigo went up to the Shikog and said, "Are you not afraid of me?" And Shikog said, "I fear nothing." And so it was. The Wendigo made a fist and pounded little Shikog into the earth. His mouth watered, for he believed he had a tasty, pasty lunch awaiting him. And he reached inside the hole, and a little voice came out and said, "Is that the best you got?" Oh, the Wendigo was greatly angered. He said, "Show yourself." Shikog, she walked out of the hole, looked defiantly at that Wendigo, turned her back, raised her tail, and walked away. And within seconds, the Wendigo was scratching at his eyes and gasping for breath, and he fell over dead. Boom. And all the animals, they said, "Oh my goodness, this is true. Everything they have said about Shikog." And they approached the body of the dead Wendigo carefully, and they soon realized what had killed him, for the forest was filled with the most noxious odor they had ever experienced. All of the animals, to this day, they take a wide berth around Shikog, except Animush, the dog, who never got the memo. Using your chat function, tell me who Shikog might be. Oh, that was quick. Let's see, who is this? Right here from Mark and Nancy, skunk. Yes. Now the word Shikog sounds mysteriously close to a city in North America. What city might that be? Looking for the chat function? Chicago, yes. Who is this? Dixie, to everyone, you're right. Chicago, and it depends on your dialect, where you're from, but the people east of Chicago, the Anishinaabe, Chicago, from what I've read, can mean stinky river. But to the people who live close to Chicago on the other side, from what I have read, Chicago means wild garlic or wild onion. So regardless, we're still talking about something that has a pungent odor, and that creature, of course, is skunk. Do you, let's see, Richard, are you there?
I'm here.
You're here. Okay. How about after that, those few stories, we take a few questions and answers. How's that?
Sure. Anybody else who wants to, you can either input via the chat function or turn on your audio and ask Genot a question.
Could you just hold up your flute a little higher so we could see it better, please?
Oh, sure.
You might need to move it back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
It's rather small. I should say, we're only seeing one section.
All right. All right. Name that tune. Anybody have, let's see, I think somebody just, yes, there we go, Shenandoah. By the time I was 9 years old, my family had crossed the country 3 times. Once by train and twice in the car, made for a long drive. Every time we would cross the Missouri or Mississippi River, my dad would sing that song, Shenandoah. And so every time I play it, I think of my dad. Any questions? All right, let's go on. Father Marquette noted in his journal, again, which is a primary source document, that when he was among the people of the Mississippi, today we say Mississippi, he recorded that he did not speak their language, and so he had to rely on hand talking. From what I've gathered in my research, is the hand talking, of course, was fairly generalized. Of course, there were some differences. So what I'd like you to do is follow along with me. We'll tell a story using our voices and our hands. So put your hands together and follow me. You can say the story after me as well. Long ago, there lived a mother bear and 2 baby bears. In their home land, there was a great fire which destroyed their food. Same sign for eat. Mother bear and the 2 baby bears heard across the Great Lake water. To the east, there was a land of plenty. Mother Bear and the two baby bears tried to swim across the Great Lake water. When Mother Bear and the two baby bears swam closer to the land of plenty, the two baby bears could not swim. The two baby bears were weak and hungry. The two baby bears fell beneath the Great Lake water. Mother Bear was sad. Mother Bear stopped and looked a long time. Mother Bear became covered by a mountain of sand. Sand is land that falls through your fingers. The Great Spirit Manitou cried for Mother Bear. The Great Spirit Manitou lifted the two baby bears and made the two baby bears into two islands. Today, the two islands are called, wherever you are, point to the north. North Manitou and South Manitou. The sand mountain is called Sleeping Bear. And the land of plenty is called Michigan. Now, to show this sign of Michigan, I use my left hand with the back of my hand pointing towards you, and I put my right hand on top. Sometimes people ask me, even in French, where do you live? And so I show them my map of Michigan and point way or right down here. And that is the legend of the Sleeping Bear Dunes. Give me just a second. I'm going to adjust my chair. I think that's as low as it goes. All right. Any questions?
Where did you learn your story, Genot?
Let's see. And who is this from?
Nancy.
Oh, Nancy. It depends. The story, if they're indigenous stories, most of them are researched on my own, but I have heard them at the Native American Center to which I belong here, Southeast Michigan Indians Incorporated. I've heard them out and about. Any place I can get a story, I'll investigate that opportunity. So the Native American stories usually from the culture. The French stories from history, from my own background. And of course, the internet is also a big help. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? All right, let's continue. I have to go to my wardrobe closet. I'll be right back. This is my musette, and hopefully I've got what I'm looking for. I do, because it's always in my bag. One of the first musical instruments to come to the Great Lakes is this little piece right here. When I go into third grade and show this to the children, most of them think it's a key of some kind, even though on the table where I have my archaeological artifacts laid out for them, there are some old ones. Of course, they don't put the two together because some of those instruments or some of the jaw harps are about 200 years old. So in English, we say jaw harp or Jew's harp, even though it has nothing to do with Jewish people. In French, we say guimbarde. Now, this was invented in Mongolia or China. It found its way to Europe along the Silk Road. And then eventually, of course, hundreds of years later, it was brought across the Atlantic Ocean to Nouvelle-France, New France. It was a small enough instrument where a person could carry it and not be burdened by its size or weight. Here is how it sounds. First, I tell children, I say, now listen closely. That's not very much fun until I do this. And that's how you play the guimbarde. It also had trade value. You could trade 16 of these for one beaver pelt. And why someone would want 16 of these is beyond me. So that's an example of the first, if not one of the first Euro-Asian instruments to find its way to Nouvelle-France. Any questions about the guimbarde or anything else? Let me check the chat box.
You know, I will have to say that's the first time I've ever seen that instrument.
Oh, really? Yeah, if you were speaking earlier about the fort at Michilimackinac, their resident archaeologist helped me with a project I was working on. They're still digging them up in archaeological searches at the fort at Michilimackinac.
Okay. Huh.
So, yeah, they're still around. And if you happen to make it to St. Ignace, you can visit Fort de Baude. That is currently making a transition from their home on State Street to what was at one time the Walker Furniture Building. It's going to be renamed. That is, the building's going to be renamed to the Cultural Center, Great Lakes Cultural Center. And if you're ever up in that area and visit Fort Dubois, they have one of the most, in my opinion, extensive private collections of Great Lakes artifacts I have ever seen. And when I was there the first time back in, I think it was 2000, year 2000, I asked if I could take photographs to bring into the classroom. There was an archaeological dig going on in town at the Huron Mission, coordinated by Dr. Charles Cleland. And if you, I know somebody was talking about Timothy Kent, who is also a fine researcher. Timothy Kent and Charles Cleland are colleagues. I know that they've worked together before. Anyway, that being said, there were plenty of these jaw harps being unearthed, along with a collection of pipes, one of which I found really fascinating in that it was made of in a style that was common to people who lived 700 miles to the east. Well, that puts us roughly around Montreal. So chances are a voyageur had, or an Indian scout or guide brought it to the what was then the Huron Mission, and probably got lost and unearthed 300 years later. Any questions, comments? All right, let's go on. When I go into schools, I like to show the children new technology of the time. When the French came here, they knew about flint and steel. They knew that they could make a fire from flint and steel. The native people did not, but the French knew that they could make a fire with flint and steel. But this was something completely different, pardon the Monty Python reference. In French, we call this verre à feu, or fire glass. Now, the Anishinaabe people believed that in order to make fire, you had to tickle wood, which meant rubbing wood together. I can only imagine what they thought when they first saw this little magnifying glass used to start a fire. And I've researched, I've never found anything anywhere that talks about the reaction of Native people to fire making with a glass. Native American people didn't have that technology, so they didn't know how to make the glass. Anything else? All right, let's move on.
That's very interesting. I again, getting back to the visit to the fort in Mackinac City, they brought up some of these, but again, I had not seen the fire glass. Is certainly something interesting, and the number of people who would gather for the fur trade events up there during whenever, I forgot the era, but it was amazing how many people would get together at that point. So I can see how what you are showing here would certainly be something for everyone to wonder about.
Yeah, I can only imagine what some of the indigenous people of Michigan thought or felt when they saw some of this new technology. Of course, it wasn't called technology of the time. The fur trade in Michigan was at its end probably around 1840. The last surviving remnant was in the Saginaw Valley. Prior to that, in France, as many of you may know, the beaver pelt was used for making muffs and mittens, and also hats for the men. But when the Europeans figured out how to raise silkworms, that eventually brought about the end of the fur trade. And lucky for the beaver, because who knows how many animals would have gone extinct here in North America from overhunting. Anybody want to weigh in?
I'd like to go back to Father Marquette. You mentioned a language that he did not know. Am I correct in remembering that he did know native languages?
From what I've read, he knew 6 of them. To what degree, I'm not certain. But when he was exploring the Mississippi River, the people that lived there spoke a language with which he was not familiar. So he had to use hand talking.
Very good.
As he notes in his journal.
Have you ever seen the place where he is thought to have died near Ludington, Michigan?
Oh, years ago. Yeah, there's a little monument there, eh?
There is. Yeah. And that recently became the subject of a dispute about separation of church and state. There's a cross on top of the monument, and it was public property owned by the city, I believe, and there was a group that sued to have it removed for that reason, and the city ceded the monument to a private nonprofit so that it could continue intact. You probably also remember that his remains were eventually reburied, I believe, somewhere around Mackinac Island or
in St. Ignace, next to the Ojibwe the history of Ojibwe culture in St. Ignace.
Yes, I think he was originally buried there near Ludington by Indians, right. and then his remains were removed.
Yes, they were. They were, and that grave next to the museum still holds the how do I say, the people believe that is indeed where he is now buried. And I visited his grave many times. Any other questions or comments? When the French came here, they learned about the canoe. In France, they had no such thing as canoes. So the French name for the watercraft is canoe. In Ojibwe, jiman. In Huron-Wendat, we say shahonwa. The native people would sing or chant in the canoes. Some people believe that this was done to keep rhythm, but that's not the case. It was really to relieve fatigue, which is fatigue, or ennui, which is boredom. The French did the same thing. They would sing in the canoes. Again, not so much to keep time, but just to pass the time, because the voyageurs could be paddling from sun up to sundown with some breaks in between. It was definitely a hard life. So we're going to sing a canoe song. I'm going to need my glasses for this and a mandolin. This is a mandolin. It is related to the violin. It's tuned exactly the same way. So if you can play the violin, you can play the mandolin. That is, if you're used to playing with a pick. We would not have found one of these in the camps. The first and foremost instrument would have most likely been the jaw harp, or maybe well, no, not a harmonica. That was invented later. The first dance instrument to come to the New World from the Old World was the vielle-à-roue, or the fiddle wheel. Today we call that the hurdy-gurdy. Now the hurdy-gurdy should not be mistaken with an organ grinder, or an organ that an organ grinder uses with the monkey. The the hurdy-gurdy, they come in different shapes, but that was, and that is regarded as the first French dance instrument. If ever you see a movie called Black Robe, when Champlain means with the indigenous people, there's somebody behind him playing a hurdy-gurdy. It's pear-shaped and you crank it. The fiddle didn't arrive until after the hurdy-gurdy. So we're going to sing a song. And I'll ask you to sing along with me. So I sing the first verse, or I sing the verse, you just repeat what I'm saying. It's all call and repeat. You know, if you want to, you can let me see, you can unmute your mic so we can all hear each other singing along. So certainly feel free to do that if you are so desirable, or so desire. Here we go. So you just repeat what I'm singing. I know a man, his name is Jacques. Excellent. Now I'm hearing some voices. This is going to help me a lot. Let's try it again. I know a man, his name is Jacques. Your turn.
I know a man, and his name is Jacques.
He's got a head as hard as a rock. He's got a
head as hard as a rock.
Hey, 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 hey. That's the hardest part of the song right there. He's got a head as hard as a rock.
He's got a head as hard as a rock.
I know a man, his name is Pierre.
I know a man, his name is Pierre.
He got the fleet and lost all his hair. He got the fleet and lost all his hair. Hey, 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 hey. There you go. Got the fleas and lost all his hair. He got
the fleas and lost all his hair.
I know a man, his name is Tom.
I know a man, his name is Tom.
He saw a ghost and he was gone.
He saw a ghost and he was gone.
Hey, 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 hey. He saw a ghost and he was gone.
A ghost and he was gone.
I know a woman, her name is Dixie.
I know a girl, her name is
Every
Dixie.
Halloween she dresses as a pixie.
Every Halloween she dresses as a pixie.
I'm looking at Nancy. She got a kick out of that. Hi, Nancy. Hey, 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 hey. Every Halloween she dresses as a pixie.
Every Halloween she dresses as a pixie.
I know a woman, her name is Cindy.
I know a woman, her name is
Go outside if it's windy.
She doesn't go outside. Won't go outside
Hey, 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 hey. She won't go outside if it's windy.
She won't go outside. She won't go outside if it's
I know a woman, her name is Jodine.
I know a woman, her name is Jodine.
She'll hide in the dark and can't be seen.
She'll hide somewhere in the dark and can't be seen.
Jodine, are you there? I hear her laughing. I think that's Jodine. Hey, 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 hey. She's behind a computer and can't be seen.
She's behind and can't be seen.
I know a man, his name is Bob.
I know a man, his name is Bob.
He tried to walk home, but he got lost.
He tried to walk
He
home.
tried to
He
walk,
got
but he got lost.
He tried to walk home, but he got lost.
He tried to walk home,
Tried to walk
but he
home.
got lost.
I know a man named Ronald Young.
I know a man named
I know a man named Ronald
drank
Young.
hot tea and it burnt his tongue.
da, 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 and it
Drank
burned his tongue.
hot tea, burned his
Hey,
tongue.
hey, hey, hey. Is Ronald Young with us?
No, he burned his tongue.
He burned his tongue. Well, I got a message here saying that he was going to tune in here. That's why I used his name.
Oh.
How about this? Hey, hey, hey. Very good. He drank hot tea and it burned his tongue.
He drank hot tea and it burned his tongue.
I know a woman, her name is Myrtle.
I know a woman, her name is Myrtle.
She's blind as a bat and slow as a turtle.
She's blind as a bat and slow as a turtle.
Hey, 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 hey. She's blind as a bat and slow as a turtle. She's blind
as a bat and slow as a turtle.
Let's see, Jane got married to husband number 5.
Jane got married to husband number 5.
Number 6 didn't care, he was next in line.
6 didn't care, he was next in line.
Hey, 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 hey. Number 6 didn't care, he was next in line.
Number 6 didn't care, he was next in line.
I see Ron Young sent out a message. I don't know if you saw it. It says, ouch. After having been burned by that hot tea. All right, so here's what I'd like you to do. We're going to sing a verse in French. Actually, 2 verses. Men are going to go first. Men, I strongly encourage you to unmute your mics so I can hear you singing. Are you ready, gentlemen? Here we go. Just the gentlemen. Mademoiselle, voulez-vous danser?
Mademoiselle,
Voulez-vous danser?
voulez-vous country?
All right. Mark, Kenny, are you singing on this? Nancy's nudging you. Are you going to sing on this? All right, let's try it again. Just the men. Mademoiselle, voulez-vous danser?
Mademoiselle,
voulez-vous danser? Yeah, gentlemen. Mademoiselle, voulez-vous danser? Mademoiselle,
voulez-vous danser?
yeah, 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 voulez-vous danser?
Madame,
Voulez-vous danser? Mark Kinney is really trying hard here. Here's a verse for Mark. You ready, Mark? Look, he's smiling at me. Mark had a fall from a great white pine. Your turn. Mark
fall from a great white pine.
He swore off beer, now he only drinks wine.
He swore off beer,
now he only drinks wine. He swore off beer, now he only drinks wine.
He swore off beer,
he only drinks wine. All right, ladies, it's your turn. Ladies, I'll help you out. It is in French. So Nancy, I want to hear your lovely voice, loud and clear. Same thing with you, Judy. And Jodine, you ready? Here we go. Oui, monsieur, je voudrais danser.
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 Je voudrais danser.
Oui, monsieur, je voudrais danser.
Beautiful. Let me translate for you if you don't speak French. You just asked your fine lady to dance.
Ah.
Mademoiselle, voulez-vous danser? And women, you just said, oui, monsieur, je voudrais danser, which means, yes, sir, I would like to dance. So, Nancy, make sure Mark lives up to his request there and make sure he gives you a dance tonight. Please get this down.
A little music here.
Hey, what? Oh, there we go. Yes. You need some,
Uh-oh.
you need some music.
Right.
Very good. Big round of applause for Mark and Nancy. Now, as you read, the only excuse you could have for dancing was suffering from something called mal de raquette, which means swelling of the feet from wearing snowshoes. That's true. Let's see, Dixie is down in Florida. I don't think she's going to have that problem, but some of you up in the Alpena area just might. Downstate here, all of our snow melted away. So there won't be any call for swollen feet down here. When I'd like to go into a little bit more of a lecture format. In French culture here in the Great Lakes, all of those cultural products like music, dance, cuisine, stories, so on, family traditions, they all came over from the old country. But when they got here, some of those stories changed over time to include Native American cultural products like the canoe or maple syrup. In the French household, and there was a while back a good size French Canadian community in Alpena that's probably since dwindled over time. The word Alpena, some people ascribe that to Anishinaabe-Moan, that is the language of the people of the Three Fires, but Alpena could not be part of their language because the O and the sound did not exist, or does not exist, in the Anishinaabe-Moan language. But the word, if I remember, piña was an indigenous word for partridge. So that might be where that comes from. Father Marquette, Father Barraga, and some of the other Catholic missionaries had become excellent linguists. Not to say that the Protestants thereafter learned the same languages. I'm sure they did to spread the word of Christ. So in the French household, there were two kinds of storytelling, two types of storytelling, the public tradition and the private tradition. And growing up in such a household, I could speak about the private tradition, and I'll tell you why. Not so much about the public. The private tradition involved parents, or usually grandparents, telling stories of the culture to children. And that, again, was usually done through the grandparents. The children could get up, take breaks if they needed. The private tradition, however, was something much different. And we don't necessarily see it as we did 300 years ago. That is the private tradition. There was a person, a troubadour, you might say, a traveling musician, or maybe a small troupe that went from village to village, and they were sponsored by a couple. And this musician or musicians performed at sometimes for 2 days straight, 4 hours per night. And that person was, of course, put up, accommodated, he was paid. I'm hesitant to say she because I haven't found any historical record of women participating in this. Now, 300 years ago, actors were not held in high regard. Maybe it's a lot like today. But it would have been rare to have, I think it would have been rare to have seen a female musician traveling on her own. So the private tradition was an event. And in some cases, the whole town came together to see this person or people perform. You know what brought about its demise? Radio.
Uh-oh.
So, I mean, we're talking about this tradition lasting well into the 1920s, the 1930s, and then World War II comes along. I mean, World War I depleted a number of different, males from a number of different villages. But by the time World War II comes along, now we have different forms of entertainment. We have cinema, we have radio, and that eventually brought about the end of the private tradition of French Canadian storytelling, music, performing. Some of you may have seen one of my musical groups, La Compagnie Musical Dance Troupe, and we formed that troupe. And let me back up here a bit. We've performed at the Maritime Fest. We were scheduled for 2020. Hopefully we'll be there in 2021. And we performed quite a bit in Rogers City. And our purpose is to keep French Canadian public storytelling, music, and dance alive. And I'm going to teach you a dance here in just a second. So do you have any questions or comments? All right, let me check the box here. All right, we are good to go. Let me do some rearranging here momentarily. Among the French Canadian culture, dancing was a popular pastime, and I'm going to hold up some wooden shoes. We normally associate the wooden shoes with the Dutch culture. In French, these are called sabots, S-A-B-O-T, and these were used during dancing. And of course, there's a number of different sizes. These are a children's variety. When the wood would hit against the wooden floors, the puncheon floors, it would make a clicking sound. I'm going to teach you a dance here in just a bit, and it's called Branle de Sabot. Now let's take that apart. De sabot, I'm going to call them dancing shoes. A branle, sometimes called a brawl, is one of the earliest examples of French court music to come to Nouvelle France. I'm going to play one for you here in just a bit. The branle eventually found its way into the peasant class, and like with anything, it changes over time. I think we could all agree on that. But finally, when the fiddle arrived, or maybe with the hurdy-gurdy, these branles were changed to accommodate community dancing. And dancing was one of the, how do I say, it was social glue to the old French Canadian society. There was a place where young people were introduced, hopefully in the future with the prospects of marriage. it was also an important way for that got families together. A good friend of mine, who is, I think he is now 89 years old. He helped me with my master's degree in theater, which I got from Eastern Michigan University. Go Hurons. Once a Huron, always a Huron. That's so anyway, Al was helping me with my master's thesis. And when he was a little boy, I think he said he was around 7 or 8 at the time. His grandparents lived in Sheboygan. And they had invited a musical troupe to come from Montreal to perform at this ceremony, and this event. I believe it was from Montreal. Regardless, here's an example of something that I guess could be considered private because it was held in somebody's home, but also public because there were a number of people there. And Al said that they took all of the furniture out of the dining area and the living room. And these 3 fellas, one playing spoons, another playing violin, another the squeeze box, got people dancing. And I remember Al telling me, he said, Genot, I saw the floorboards of the house going up and down like this. And I swear to God, I thought we were going to end up in the fruit cellar. He thought the floor was going to give way. So without further ado, the first dance I would like to teach you is called Branle de Sabot. Again, the branle being a dance, and it loosely translated, it means to shake. And I'm not going to be wearing any dancing shoes, however. You may recognize the tune. I'll hum it out for you. Da 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 da. Now today we know that song as Ding dong merrily on high, the Christmas bells are ringing. Well, this is how that tune sounded about 300 years ago. I'm going to show you the dance steps first. You are more than welcome to try it. I'm going to move my chair out of the way here. Just ran over my cat.
The poor cat's been going back and forth.
He didn't particularly like that.
Yeah, we've noticed your cat running back and forth in the background throughout your program.
And we're having some plumbing work done. And if he were upstairs right now, he would be a plumber's apprentice. He's that curious. All right, so we're going to, there's no fancy footwork. It's just simple walking. So I'm going to walk this way. One, I'm bringing my feet together. Maybe you can see that. There we go. Here's how the footwork looks. 1, 2. It's just a step together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is called the A part. Here's the B part. We take a step together and then go back in the direction you came from. Step together. And you're going to clap and stomp 3 times. 1, 2, 3, or maybe it's 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. And let's turn on the music.
Oh, my God. Did you hear him singing? Hear him singing? I ordered 2 new.
Give me just a second. We're almost there. Whoops. All right, are you ready? Here we go. I think, maybe not. Let's see. Gentlemen bow. Ladies curtsy. All right. Any questions? I hear the laughter, and I do appreciate that, hearing the laughter. So the dances were made simple. The simplest dances meant that anyone could participate. And that's why they were constructed as such. Now the next dance that you're going to hear can be danced two ways. One, in a circle, or two, in a line. So we're going to dance this in a line. Excuse me. I think one of the largest crowds I ever had was over 80 people dancing to Joys of Quebec, in French, Joie de Québec. No one knows who composed the music or choreographed the dance. La Compagnie was performing at the Saint Anne du Détroit rendezvous, and here in Detroit we have Saint Anne's Church, which I believe recently was given the status of basilica. It is the first church founded in Detroit in 1701. And as we were dancing in a circle, a friend of mine, actually I call him my brother, we're probably distant related, he's from the Wyandot tribe. He said, Genot, that circle dance looks a lot like our friendship dance. Interesting. So again, I'd like to go back to reiterate that there was cultural sharing, French to Native American, Native Canadian, and vice versa. So this particular dance is easy. Again, if you're in a circle, all you have to do is know how to walk. And even if you have swelling of the feet from wearing snowshoes, it's so easy, even you could do it. So in a circle, you would go 8 steps to the left, 8 steps to the right, 8 steps to the left, 8 steps to the right. And then you're going to clap, 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 and stomp, stomp, stomp. And this is the hardest part of the dance right here. Shake those hands above the head, and you repeat that. Clap, 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 stomp, 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 and woo! That's how easy it is. And this is called Joys of Quebec. Oh, let's start again.
That's going to be pretty fast.
Oh, it's not so bad. Y'all can do it.
Can you walk?
Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Other direction. And back. Get ready. Clap, clap. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Here we go. And again. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Clap, clap, clap. Stomp, stomp, stomp. One more time.
There you go. Joys of French.
Yeah. How are we doing on time here? Dixie says, I've got to go. Very, very entertaining. Thank you. Oh, Miigwech. She's Anishinaabe. Bye, Dixie, if you're still online. So, if ever, you know, I didn't tell you about my other group. That is Trois Bouffons. In French, that means 3 clowns. And that particular ensemble is more focused in its music insofar as it's generational. So, for example, we might play something that was popular between 1850 and 1870, and we would research music from that particular time period. If ever you get a chance to see La Compagnie, I'm sure we'll be back in Alpena, and most likely in Rogers City, I think for the 3rd or 4th time. And please come up and say hello. I see we've got some comments coming in here. Oh, thank you, Jodine. Lovely way to spend time together. Excellent. Do you have any comments or questions? We've been at it now for a little over an hour. It's usually about as long as I can go. Love the dance. Thank you, Joanne. It was fun.
Don't know how to make it. This is Judy Nichols.
Hi,
And
Judy.
hello. The dancing was delightful. I hope I didn't hurt myself. It was just great. I want to go back to Shekog and Wendigo. What was the Wendigo? What kind of an animal was it that the skunk scared off?
It was a monster. I said, I think maybe I didn't say it. A Wendigo, which is a monster.
Oh, maybe I missed it.
And I might not have said it, but yeah, a Wendigo is just about any kind of evil Manitou.
Oh, okay. Delightful program. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Let's see here. Got another thing coming in here. Very good. Oh, Ron Young, very entertaining. Thank you. Watch out for that hot tea and that hot chocolate, Ron. We don't want you to get burned. Anybody here come from French or French Canadian stock?
Yes, I have come from French Canadian stock.
Okay.
Which actually,
Go ahead.
okay, don't go there. My husband says, sort of unfortunate. There's a genetic mutation that isn't good. That's in the French Canadian strain.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah.
No.
Yeah.
In all French Canadians?
Well, it's called the founder's effect, which means, you know, it's within a group of certain people, and French Canadians are one of those that have this one mutation that's prevalent. Nice. Yeah.
Okay. Well, at one point in history, there were, if I recall, about 800 young women that were brought to New France. For those of you that saw the series Bark Skins, there was one line that when I heard it, it choked me up. One woman says to the other, "We are the mothers of New France." I think men outnumbered women 10 to 1, and the great King Louis XIII gave an opportunity to women who were primarily orphans, but they had to be of good moral standing. He sponsored up to 800 young women coming to the New World between 1670 and 1700. I think those are the dates. They became known as Les Filles du Roi, or Daughters of the King, because the king paid for their journey across the Atlantic Ocean. He paid for their accommodations and so on. These young women, when they came here, they were expected to marry, but some found careers and apprenticeships for themselves, possibly as a blancheuse, a laundress, or a seamstress. At any rate, that was a good deal for those young ladies. So we have Les Filles du Roi, coming to Nouvelle-France. They're also bringing traditions with them to the New World. And then French Canadian culture really develops in and of itself away from old France. And I say that because the French Canadians were isolated for the most part. In my family, so the story goes, we were kicked out of Canada after we renounced our allegiance to the British Crown. Now, sometimes when I do programs for the Daughters of the Revolution, they say, yeah, so did we, so did we. But, you know, knowing my family, I'm guessing a public official probably got murdered because they had to leave in a hurry. And they only went across the border to Vermont. That's as far away as they went. So they stood on the other side of the border and like this to the English. So anyhow, so the how do I say? A lot of those cultural products, like the benediction at Christmas, the private tradition of, or public tradition of storytelling, many of those traditions, or what I say cultural products, really dissolved after coming to the melting pot of the US and what is now US and Canada. So, well, let's see what we got here. We got a comment. Have sometimes looked for a book or two on first encounters in North America. Do you have one or two recommendations off the top of your head? Cadillac's journal, or in French, Cadillac, is reported to have exaggerated a lot of what is in his journal. I think the best and most concise and precise would be found in the Jesuit Relations. So remember, when the French Catholic missionaries came here, they were looking to save souls, which is one way, or I guess one reason that they learned so many different languages. So yeah, I would look for the Jesuit Relations. In fact, I think I might have it right here. Give me just a second to take a look. All right, I don't see it. Oh, here's a good one. Can you read that? History of the Diocese of Sault Ste. Marie and Marquette. There's some good first-person accounts in here. But anything that would have to do with the Jesuit Relations, I would go in that direction for starts.
So there's a tradition of Huguenots in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't quite fit your picture.
No, they don't. They're really more, they gravitated more towards the English because the English were Protestant.
Right.
Oh, let's see here. Maternal side of the family was Bezout. Came through Canada, settling in Atlantic Mine, Michigan. I know there's David Bezout from, oh, that's it, Jerry Doyle. There's David Bezout up in Marquette. So yeah, he was saying there's a lot of, do you pronounce it Bezout? Quite a bit in the UP.
We pronounce it Bazat.
Bazat, okay. Very good, Bazat. All right. Any other questions? Comments?
Hi, this is Richard Bremer. Yeah, there are still quite a few folks of French heritage in the Alcona County area. I know. I'm sure if we can. We're recording this, so we'll make sure it's available to whomever wants to watch it on YouTube. But very interesting. None of my forefathers were French.
I'm sorry?
I said none of my forefathers were French. They all came north of there.
Now, as I remember, there's 3 Catholic churches in Alpena. There's St. Bernard's, and it's located very close to another Catholic church. But there's another church.
There's St. Anne's, and then there's St. Mary's.
Yeah, and it's down the street from the theater.
St.
Right?
John.
I believe that's the old French Canadian Catholic church.
The French was St. Anne's. That was
Okay.
French Canadian. St. Bernard's was Irish, and St. Mary's was Polish. The original church was St. Bernard's.
Excellent. Thank you.
The original one was St. Bernard's. Wow. Yeah, that was St. Mary's.
And then, of course, they tried to break up the ethnic parishes and created a 4th Catholic parish, which became St. John's.
Okay.
And then they all came together.
And now they're all one.
Well, and I remember my parents saying, we don't speak those old languages because you're in America and you have to speak English. So my French is abominable unless I'm around it for any period of time, and then it starts to come back. But I'm sure you've all heard this. You only speak the old language when you don't want the kids to know what you're speaking about.
Yes.
Anything else?
Anything else for Genot?
This was
Yeah,
really
well,
great. I appreciate
Something on chat.
music and all of that.
Well, you're very welcome. Glad you had a good time. This is somewhat off color, but I'll be polite. My wife and I were watching a movie called, or a Netflix series, Call My Agent, and it takes place in France, not French Canada, but old France, and they're speaking among another. There's subtitles, but I'm not looking at the screen, and I can pick out all of the curse words, all of the things that somebody would say to put somebody down. Those things I remember, believe it or not.
Your French wasn't so far gone.
Really, that's true. And maybe because I heard my father say them countless times when he got frustrated. So there's a word that is used to talk about a part of the body which isn't so clean. We'll go that route. I had my back to the screen and I hear this guy going through this litany of French, and he calls the guy a canard. And I know what that means. Not canard, which is duck, canard, which is something different.
Not duck.
But it's strange as it all comes back to me over time. Oh, let's see, there's something else here. Maternal grandfather, Saint Antoine. Maternal grandmother, Leduc in Sheboygan. ECDGS, JS. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
My sister-in-law said she had scheduled you for one of her children's schools in the Mount Clemens area some years ago, and she said it was a marvelous program. And
Okay.
I think it would be great non-zoomed.
Oh. Yeah, you really lose a lot this way.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of the school?
It was one of the ones in Mount Clemens.
Let's see, there's St. Mary's. That's the Catholic church, or the Catholic church in school.
Yeah, her kids did go to St. Mary's until high school. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, their pastor, Father Cooney, just passed away from
Oh, yeah.
COVID.
Yep.
Yeah, in fact, Mike Cooney and I went back a long ways. I sang at his ordination when was that, back in the 70s. So yeah, it was unfortunate. Mike Cooney was a good guy, good man.
I think his brother was ill, and Mike had taken him in for a while. Bishop Cooney, I think, from up here.
Patrick Cooney.
Yeah.
He was in Gaylord.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were, growing up, I got to know the Cooneys and was at a St. Patrick's Day party parade in Port Huron. And leading the procession to the church was Bishop Cooney. And so I'm standing on the side and I'm waving at him. He, surprised to see me, he waved back. He passed away a few years ago.
Yeah, they're both gone.
Yeah, unfortunate. So anything else?
I guess not. Thank you very much, Picor, for providing a very educational and entertaining session this afternoon. I guess it fits right in with our learn, laugh, and live motto. So
Awesome.
you did a great job. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you sometime soon in person in Alpena or the area.
Well, thank you. Yeah, just keep this in mind. The reason why we French, in my opinion, lost North America is because we were too busy singing, dancing, and making wine for our children. Those three things.
That could be.
Yeah.
You got all those grapes growing in Canada. You got lost there.
All right, everyone. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you so much, Richard and Jodine, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, we got a couple more chat questions here. Things that are just compliments. They're complimenting you.
Awesome. Okay, checking out. Just awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Well, we'll let you go back to life as usual in the quarantine zone. But we thank you for breaking us out for a while.
No problem. It's been my pleasure.
And say hi to your cat.
Oh yeah, he's around here. So he's sleeping right behind me. He likes the fringe on my pantalon, and sometimes as I'm sitting here talking to you, he's nibbling on the fringe.
That's why he kept wandering out. I never saw him come in the door. He was always wandering out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much. Anybody else have any final comments? Okay, with that, Pinar, we will sign off, and thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay, goodbye.
Happy New Year, everyone.